Let's talk about Epstein, JP Morgan, the Butterfly Trust, and Disney princesses. Down the rabbit hole we go. A lot has been hidden from us. These people have been lying. We need to read in between the lines. We need to look into the financial transactions. This is about the children. That's who we fight for. Why is there $1 billion worth of human trafficking transactions between JP Morgan and Epstein's accounts? Who were the clients? When there's a bank, they're in the middle. Who was paying the money? Who was receiving money? We need to look into that. There's a lot more going on here. Also, the victims being paid $290 million through the JP Morgan lawsuit for human trafficking. Why not more names on the flight logs? Also, what about the Butterfly Trust, with all the money being hidden? People need to do a lot more research into the financial transactions, as we all know we've been lied to. Follow the money, you'll find the criminals, because they're all about money at the end of the day. The Butterfly Trust, primary vehicle for Epstein's alleged sex trafficking operation. We all need to look into that. Also, as far as Epstein being a maths teacher, he never told me he was a maths teacher. He told me he was a cab driver. Why did he misspell his name on the board? How did he suddenly become a maths teacher at one of the most prestigious schools in America? Also, why was his mansion apparently a school before he moved in there? It seems there's a lot more going on there. He bought that mansion from Wexner, right, for $1. Also, as far as the butterflies go, this is my diary from 2002. This is before I even met Epstein. I put the blue butterfly on my diary. This is Sarah Ransom's tattoo on her arm. Virginia Gaffer's also got a blue butterfly tattooed on her body. This is me, Virginia Gaffer, and Sarah Ransom. I don't have any tattoos, but I do paint the blue butterfly. Maria Farmer also painted it with Virginia. Virginia used it as her Twitter logo, X logo. Virginia also loudly said she was not suicidal. Neither am I. This is my artwork from 2002 before I was taken to Epstein. Again, blue butterflies. We need to read between the lines to find the lies. Virginia said she was not suicidal. I'm not suicidal either. I'd like to know what happened to Virginia, because it makes me feel very, very unhappy that she's not here anymore. Also, as far as the Butterfly Trust, butterflies shaped like the human hips. Did they have their own farm where they were creating humans? God knows what these creatures are capable of. Anyway, let's listen to Virginia Gaffer.
Your baby, but it would really be our baby, and we would have you sign a document that says.
Many more people have been catching on to the truth, such as Nick Bryant. He's quite aware that my ovums were very likely being harvested. Also, Oprah apparently worked for Epstein, apparently owned her network, and she was involved with John of God. The man who owned a baby farm who's been put in prison now. We need to look further into all of this because these arseholes are lying to us. What happened to the missing children? Everyone needs to do a bit of research. Also, as far as the blue butterfly, why was Gayle King, Katy Perry, all these people in space, and Bezos' wife? All the same lot out in space apparently. Then Katy Perry suddenly throws a blue butterfly out in space. Yes, a blue butterfly. And then if you look further, you'll see that Katy Perry's name is on my name by the flight log. But I'll show you that later. Let's look at Oprah, and all of these people, Oprah's friend Gayle King, all flying in space. Anyway, then, here we go. On the flight log, my name is there, and Katy Perry's name is a few names below mine. Katy Perry, who threw a blue butterfly in space. Let's just look at the symbols here, guys. I'm asking everyone for help, because I don't know all the answers. But I've done my own fair amount of research, and I'm putting this out there so other people can do research as well. Katy Perry in space, Jeff Bezos' wife in space, Gayle King, Oprah's friend in space. All these people in space, apparently. Anyway, let's keep looking at this, let's keep going. Then on their wedding invitation, Jeff Bezos says blue butterflies. Him and his wife have got blue butterflies on their wedding invitation. What is up with this blue butterfly symbol? We all have to look deeper into these symbols. Let's have a proper look. Anyway, then apparently they associate the butterfly with MK Ultra. Maybe it is that. Who knows? I don't know what it is. I know I was taken there. I hope to God they didn't MK Ultra me, and if they did, it backfired on them. But, I'm just sharing this so others can do their own research, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. But what I realized is with a butterfly, a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. It's like transformation, and I'm hoping it's a good thing. But then we get human cloning of sheep. They cloned a sheep in 1996. very soon after Bill Clinton banned the federal funds use of funds for human cloning. You know, there's a big red flag here. 1997, this was like 30 years ago, guys. Then the island, Michael Bay. I met Michael Bay at Epstein's property. He made the movie about human cloning. He denies being there, but I met him in New Mexico. Anyway, back to the island. Where were all these celebrities staying when they went there? Or were they staying there at all? Because when you start looking further and further into it, it gets more and more dodgy. And anyway, Michael Bay apparently met with the CIA. Epstein told me he worked with CIA. Sergey Brin and his wife and Wojcicki were both on the island. Sergey Brin, who owns Google, his ex-wife, who owns 23andMe, the genetics laboratory, both on the island. You know, then they cloned the first clone, Eve, in 2002, just 2 months after I was taken there. Down the rabbit hole we go yet again. How about Disney? The Disney insignia. It looks very like Epstein's temple, doesn't it, when you look at it clearly? Then you've got Ellen DeGeneres. Her background's very like Epstein's island too. What are they talking about here? And then we have JP Morgan, Disney princesses. Code word, Snow White. What are these guys doing? What was going on there? It's quite clear that there's something very dodgy going on. Also, Walt Disney was apparently a Satanist, if they want to be using that sort of insignia. Ghislaine Maxwell seemed to love Disney. And, you know, if you look closer into Disney, you'll realize there's a lot of dodgy stuff going on. Also, look at Prince William getting married, much like the Disney characters and the ugly sisters. It's all there. You know, Disney, lies, JP Morgan. You know, I'm still searching for answers. I'm only sharing what I know. Basically, we've all been lied to. Follow the white rabbit, as they say. The white rabbit down into the underground. Alice in Wonderland. Disney princesses. You know, it's quite frightening when you look into what they've been doing. You know, Epstein's New Mexico ranch is between Dulce and Roswell. They've got underground bases there. There's a lot of stuff going on underground that we're not aware of. These people are lying to us. And you know, the more we look into it, the more frightening it gets. I have very frightening memories from there when I woke up in a lab, you know, and I was taken to all the properties that Epstein owned. There were pictures of me there, you know, and they were obviously doing something else. They were taking our eggs. They were doing some sort of experiments on people, creating their own sort of Westworld. You know, if you listen to Bill Clinton right now, you'll hear clearly they were going to ban human cloning, but something happened where they couldn't ban it clearly. They obviously lost control.
Good morning. Would it be possible to clone humans? Our administration believes that there are loopholes that could allow the cloning of human beings if the technology were developed. Therefore, today I am issuing a directive that bans the use of any federal funds for any cloning of human beings.
Kind of suspicious when it was nearly 30 years ago, and then Epstein's apparently trying to clone himself in his own lab, interested in transhumanism. We all need to look further in to see what's been really going on here, because clearly we've been lied to. Epstein apparently also funded the robot Sophia. You know, robots, AI, look what's going on at the moment. Transhumanism. You know, there's a lot more going on here, and I think we all need to do our own research, and we need to become more awake and aware. And as far as like Epstein and Disney princesses and JP Morgan, you know, into the underground we go. Thank you again to everyone for listening, and let's hope together we can find more truth. And just again, thank you for listening. I love you all very much.